which is the progeny of the manky, what we will refer to as the manky hyena. That's the one that you can see there. Then the head that popped out earlier, I don't believe is the twin of that little one. So that little one there was born as a group of twins. We saw them both. Look, here we go. Look, it's much bigger. The little one sticking its head out of the den now, I think is the 6-week-old. It could be the twin of this little one, but I think its head is much bigger. Let's just see. We've had a very brief glimpse. Here it comes. There we go. Keeps sticking its head back in. So I think that is the 7-week-old cub, and I think that's the only reason that other adult is here. I can't imagine why else. There it comes. Here we go. Look, and you can see the spotting. Already got the spotting on the neck, so much older than the little one there. That's definitely the 6 or 7-week-old cub. Oh, that is very spectacular, but very nervous. She's not normally nervous. Perhaps her mother is lower ranking and she's nervous of the mother currently suckling there. And that's why she's not quite as bold as she has been in the past. And please, if you have been watching for a long time, give us an idea of what you think's going on here. Right, we're not going anywhere. Scott has got, it means quite astonishing how many nests that he's like a nest magnet. He's got another nest to show you of some very colourful, beautiful birds. We'll stay right here and see you just now.
Well, I'm just looking up into the sky to try and work out why 2 young lilac-breasted roller chicks just flew off. We've been sitting here for about 5 minutes watching them, and then all of a sudden they took off. But don't worry, we are going to take flight after them. Hold on. And some of you may remember us following quite closely some lilac-breasted roller chicks that were growing up in a little cavity in the marula tree. And we never got to see them actually fledge, but this is the closest I've been able to come to show you a young fledgling lilac-breasted roller. They're slightly more dull than their parents, and they lack the long tail streamers. They landed somewhere just up ahead here. Okay, let me just go forward a little bit. Oh no! I should have listened to VM. No, but there's one coming back. Let's just carry on. Okay, well done, VM. So there's just 2 of them. We are going to get you a view very shortly and then get you back to the hyena den with James. Awesome stuff there. Okay, that one's gone, but this other one we can bank. Let's bank this other one straight in front of you, and we got it. There we go. So you can see there's kind of not quite that bright electric turquoise and bright lilac breast. And as it kind of moves about, you'll maybe notice that it lacks the long tail streamers that the adults have. So these 2 are probably waiting for their parents to bring them a snack. And they will be able to feed themselves, but will definitely do a lot of begging from their parents. And I was hoping we'd actually see the parents return and feed them a little snack. It probably will happen if we just be patient. I love watching young birds get fed by their parents. It's such a commotion with the little fledglings shaking their wings, opening their mouths wide, hoping to get a snack. Now, what I would like to show you quickly in the book before we get you back to James is the little tail stream. It's not very well depicted here in this book, but you can see there's a streamer that comes down each tail. It sometimes has a little bit of a kind of spatula tip, like a spoon at the end, not huge. And I can show you the racket-tailed roller. That's a very exaggerated spatula tip. We sadly don't get the racket-tailed rollers here, but the lilac-breastids aren't hugely dissimilar from that. And the European roller, which we get up here, lack those streamers. So that's the differences between the rollers of this area. And we're going to send you back to James now at the hyena den. I hope those cubs continue to provide you with some more cuteness.
So we're still here. The little one poked its, or the olderish one poked its head out while you were gone and seems to have retreated back inside. Now, let's try and figure out why that should be the case. But before we do that, I just want to say that Scott's obviously been watching those little chicks since they were hatchlings. Wonderful that they've both survived to be able to fledge and fly away. That's incredible how fast that happens. I mean, that's in the space of about 30 days. Really incredible stuff. Anyway, let's try and figure out what's going on here. I suspect maybe this female is slightly higher ranking than the prettier one, and maybe that's why the cub is suddenly so nervous. Used to run all the way down the termite mound in front of the vehicles, and now every time she sticks her head out, she's just too nervous to come out. And I think interestingly, I think they're both females. I think the little one is a female, and you can tell that, of course. I mean, if you haven't, this is your first time watching, you perhaps think that it's pretty obvious, but those of you who watch regularly will know that with hyenas it's almost impossible to tell the difference, but you can tell by the shape of what looks like a penis, but the females also have what we call a pseudo-penis, and that little one has the kind of dead straight shape. There's no pinching on the end of it, and that apparently is a good way to tell male from female. So I think, especially given that this is the one surviving twin, that she's a female, and I think the other one's also a female. Much bigger than the males, of course. Now, hello Sabrina, you're aged just 12 in North Carolina. Wonderful to hear from you. Thank you for contacting us. Look at this little baby there. It is really lovely to hear from our younger viewers, because they, of course, are going to become the most important forefront in the quest to save our last wild areas in the future. And so the more inspired by the wild they become, the better it is. So Sabrina, you're a 12-year-old wilderness enthusiast, and you want to know, will the hyena cubs kill each other in the den from different mothers? No, not normally. Because there's such a strict hierarchy, it normally reduces the kind of conflict that there is. And I think that the confidence that you can see the little one showing versus the slightly older one indicates that they are higher ranking than the pretty one and her slightly older cub. But there shouldn't be any violence in the den, because that older one is certainly large enough to kill the little one. Very sweet. Also, just to reiterate, we've been searching all the different little dens around here to see what on earth's been going on, where this pretty mother and her baby have gone. Didn't think that they were still here. Clearly here they are. Sandra in British Columbia, I said that if there are two females born, especially to a high-ranking female, one will kill the other. Almost at birth. And you want to know if that would happen in captivity. Sandra, I really couldn't tell you if that would happen in captivity. I imagine that it would, unless there was some kind of intervention. But I'm afraid I couldn't tell you if it would happen in captivity or not. It's a result, however, of an enormous burst of androgen, which is, I think, a suite of different male sex hormones. Sorry, I'm pausing because a little sparrowhawk just came flying through the sighting. Beautiful little raptor. So they get this enormous sort of influx of androgen or male sex hormone before they're born, and it makes them tremendously aggressive. Now this one is very confident for a cub that size. And it looks more sure on its feet than its cohort back in the den did at the same age, I think. The only thing that's making me doubt whether I'm correct about this one being a lower-ranking female is the fact that she gave birth at a different den, and this does seem to be the main den. So that's very interesting. Now, what we will refer to as the pretty mother is going to try again to call her youngster out. She's been trying and trying, and it sticks its head out and then disappears back inside. You can hear her now. Look, she's marking with her anal gland. Now, Shannon and Annie, very interesting. You say just before the fight that occurred, and for those of you who don't know, there was a massive hyena fight where one of the hyenas we know got very badly injured, had her ear torn clean off. You say that even before that fight, this mother was trying to get the youngster to come out, and she seemed a lot more nervous than she had been before. Could there have been some sort of experience that gave her a fright? Absolutely, there could have. Who knows what that was? It could have been lions coming along across the area. It could have been that fight. It could have been a rival hyena clan coming into the area. No. Desperately calling her youngster out. Fascinating to see. I really would like to see the other one just to see what condition she's in. Now, a brilliant question from Marilyn in California, and one which I like because I can't answer it exactly. You say that hyena mothers seem to be so loving and caring to their youngsters. What would cause one to abandon, say, one of her twins? Why would she just leave it to its own fate? Marilyn, there are a number of reasons for that. Yes, as you say, it could well be the fact that she needs to reduce the kind of nutrient load on herself, that it's just too expensive to raise two cubs. I think that has a lot to do with it. I know hyena energy balance, especially amongst the lower ranking females, is often sort of teetering on the brink being too little. So if she's a low-ranking female, it'd be difficult for her to raise 2 cubs. I'm not sure that this one is a low-ranking female, though. The other reason, Marilyn, as any predator, or any animal indeed, will do, bar perhaps human beings, almost no mothers out here will defend their cubs to the death. It doesn't make any evolutionary sense for them to do so. If she was to come across a threat, and I suspect maybe that's why she brought, the Mankey mother brought this youngster across here. I suspect there was a threat at the other den. She picked this one up and ran. She would never defend her cubs to the death because it doesn't make evolutionary sense. If she dies or gets injured, the cubs will die anyway. And so it gets to the point where if they are severely threatened by a bigger animal like a different clan of hyenas or some lions or a leopard, she'll leave them. And I suspect that's something like what's happened here. So despite the affection that you see going on here between the mothers and the cubs, there is a point beyond which they will not defend their cubs anymore. And I think the nutrient load of hyenas is definitely one of the major reasons. Excellent question. Thank you, Marilyn. Hello, James Chapman. You're a new viewer on YouTube. You've stumbled across us and you're wondering where on earth we are in the world. This is a valid query, of course. You're just staring at a termite mound, looking at some hyenas, and it must be very confusing if you've just come across us. We are we're in Africa, first of all. We're at the southern tip of Africa, in South Africa, which, of course, was recently voted the most beautiful country in the world, probably largely by South Africans, but I agree with the poll wholeheartedly. And you're on the northeast corner of South Africa in the world-famous Kruger National Park. Kruger National Park is 3 times the size of Yellowstone National Park, so an enormous piece of ground, 8 million acres of contiguous wildlife area, if you include the bits that go into Mozambique and north into Zimbabwe. And we're on the western fringes of that in a place called the Sabi Sands, which is a collection of private farms, none of them fenced, so they're all unfenced and open to the Greater Kruger National Park. And the little farm in the Sabi Sands we're on is called Juma, about 1,500 hectares or 4,000 acres of land that we are very privileged to call home. So that, in a nutshell, James Chapman, is where we are in the world. And if you continue to watch, at some stage, when we're not sitting at the hyena, then I'll draw you a map, and that's often a little bit more easy to understand from a map. Otherwise, you always go to Google Earth if you want and type in Juma Game Reserve or Sabi Sands, and it should be able to find it in the northeast corner of South Africa. Thank you for clarifying that for us. Dodie, you asked a question yesterday apparently about whether or not the fight that we witnessed amongst these hyenas a few days ago could have been precipitated by the loss of the twin to this youngster that we're seeing suckling now. Dodie, I would say not. And I'd say not simply because it's not uncommon for hyena cubs to die. It's not uncommon for only one of the twins to survive. In fact, it's a more usual situation than for both twins to survive. So, no, I don't think that would have precipitated the fight. It could have. If that cub was killed by a higher-ranking female, which is not impossible, that may have precipitated some kind of conflict. I don't know where the conflict actually took place, though. I wasn't around. So let's try and find out where it took place. And when I have that information, Dodie, I'll try and give you an idea of what I think happened. Just remember, though, most of what we say around here and discuss and sort of theorize around is wild conjecture. Often we really don't know what's going on. We're just guessing. We've got a specific suite of circumstances that we're looking at, but it's a real snapshot of hyena life, lion life, leopard life. We're not watching them 24 hours a day, and so I've no doubt that we are making some pretty inaccurate and far-fetched conclusions from what we're watching, but that's good. That's a good thing, because eventually those conclusions and theories will be tested over time, and we'll be able to toss the good ones, or toss the bad ones and keep the good ones. And the interesting thing is that so few people get to spend this kind of time with animals, and because of that, often the textbooks are wrong. I was talking about the very strict hierarchy amongst the females in a clan like this, and Tim in Arkansas, you want to know if a displaced female could remain with the clan in a subordinate position. Tim, they don't really get displaced. You know what? I think the other one's coming out the other side. Unfortunately, I can't move because there is a vehicle behind us. We're just going to sit here for a little bit longer, and then I will try and move. Tim? No, she's coming back. Still trying to call the youngster out. So, Tim, the hierarchy's pretty set, you know, and once a matriarch loses condition, she dies. It's normally her daughter that takes over. There isn't a huge amount of swapping around. So when you say displaced female, it's unlikely that a female will ever leave the natal clan, and I don't think the social rank changes often at all. This is fascinating. I said just now that I thought maybe the older one was coming out of the other entrance. Jen, you want to know if there are two entrances? I think there are. Yesterday, that little one went into a hole the other side of the mound and popped out of this one. So I think that the tunnel goes right through. Sweet. And Tim, just to sort of follow on from your question, the males, although they have as strict a hierarchy as the females, they do get displaced, and oh look, here we go. It's going to be very quiet. Unfortunately, a bit of noise behind us. Here she comes. Marilyn, you want to know why Manky Mum won't move out the way so that the Pretty Mum can feed her baby? It's not a question of that. It's a question of the little one being too nervous to come out. She could come out. There's no reason for her not to. But for the fact that I don't know if she feels threatened, I suspect that, maybe this Manky mother's going to have to move away from the entrance so that the Pretty Mum can entice the youngster to come out. So Tim, sorry, I keep getting distracted by bits and pieces going on here. The males, if they're born and they will retain the rank that their mothers have. Well, from the male point of view, if they leave their natal clan, which a lot of them do, a lot of the males will leave the clan into which they're born. They'll join another clan. When they join another clan, though, they immediately are basically the lowest of the low. So they become completely subordinate. in the new clan to which they join. But even though they are very low ranking, because they're from outside, the chances of them mating are that much higher. And like I've said before, it is the only mammal society that I know of, including our own, in which a low-ranking male of very little status has a higher chance of mating than a high-ranking male from the same clan. Look at that. Now, all the way from Guyana, that's really nice to hear from that far away. Mo Khan, you want to know what's the purpose of the highest ranking female? She's the matriarch. She is the kind of leader of the clan, and her purpose, I suppose, is to, I suppose the question is, why on earth does a hyena clan need a leader? Do they need a leader? They probably do, especially on the hunt. If they're hunting, they'll take the lead from her. I think that her experience certainly will help them to defend her territory. She's a repository of knowledge, but it's a little bit like a wolf pack where you have an alpha and or an alpha pair, or like a wild dog pack where you have an alpha pair. You've got an alpha female in a group like this, and that kind of, I think it does benefit the society because it stratifies the society and it seems to create a social cohesion that works. And it means that while some don't necessarily breed, while all females can breed in the clan, the higher ranking ones have a better chance of keeping their babies because they can dominate the others. And for the species, that makes sense because it means that more cubs will survive. I hope that's answered your question. If it hasn't, please feel free to ask me to clarify. All right, so let me just clarify something. I'm creating a bit of confusion, I think, here. Now, Joel in New York, you say, how does a youngster born know that it's born to a higher ranking female, and how does it know that its sibling is a male or a female, and therefore whether or not to kill it? What happens is the females that are higher ranking have got lots of testosterone. That means that their babies are going to have lots of testosterone, and that means that their babies are going to be naturally more aggressive. If a female is born first, she will by default try and kill the other baby because of the challenge that the other baby will provide, especially if it's another female. If it's immediately a male and very subordinate, you'll find that it won't create that much of a competition, and so perhaps might survive. That youngster is calling from inside the den. Making a huge noise from the other side. Stop calling now. He might be able to hear it now. Sounds like it's calling from the other side. Alright, the game drive behind us is going to drive around the other side of the mound and see what's going on there. So Joel, I hope that does answer your question. Just to sort of reiterate then, there's no knowledge. It's simply a suite of hormones that causes the higher-ranking female cubs to kill their siblings. Males don't have the same suite of hormones in them, and so they're not nearly as aggressive. And Sean, while your comment is probably tongue-in-cheek, I think you're absolutely correct. The 7-week-old is afraid of this lanky, ugly thing. I think that's simply because she's probably a higher-ranking female. I'm just going to try and get an idea from Andrew whether he can see the other cub there. Certainly the giant camera lenses on the other Land Rover are pointing. That's me whistling, everybody. Two. There's another two the other side there. That's interesting. We'll try and go around there as soon as they have moved out. Oh, lovely inquiry, of course. Many inquiries are thinly, well, not thinly disguised, but I think they come from a psychological position of humans and trying to find some kind of identification with mammals and social identification specifically. And Courtney Rambo, you want to know if the males and the females hang out with each other in hyena society. Not a great deal, no. The males tend to hang around on their own or in pairs. Definitely part of the same clan, part of the same territory. They will be recognized by all the other hyenas within the same clan, but they will go off and forage on their own, spend their days lurking in the shade on their own. Very seldom will they be found in the company of the females. That's just because the females dominate them so completely. Let's head across to Scott, see what he's got to show us. I'm going to wait here, I think, for the foreseeable future and just see if we can't get a space in around the other side eventually. See you just now.
Well, I'm sure you've been having a great time at the hyena den. We have been searching for any signs of action, but have not come up with too much. However, there's some good news. There are apparently tracks of a pack of wild dog. I'm not too sure which pack, but heading into this general direction. We are far in the northwestern corner of Arathusa, and let's hope that these wild dog pop up somewhere. Incredibly difficult animals to track. They move huge distances in very short spaces of time, and often tracks may head north, south, east and west all in the same place. They are pack animals, and different animals can bombshell in all directions. They're very difficult to track. But there's two other vehicles also working in this area, fine combing it for any signs of life. So maybe, just maybe, we'll get lucky and find you some dogs soon. There's also a strong chance we could bump into either of the two big male leopards whose territories overlap in this general area, and those are Tingana and Anderson. There's some tracks on the road here, but they look to be like the tracks of a kudu, not the tracks of a wild dog. It's very tricky to see tracks in this overcast weather, so I'm just taking it slowly to make sure I don't miss any important clues. Otherwise I will get into trouble with the other guides for driving over tracks, which is a situation you want to try and avoid getting into. Nothing worse than driving down the road and a few minutes later somebody comes in over the radio and says, "Which station's driven that road?" and you own up, wondering maybe you've dropped your cell phone or something, and then he says, well done, you've driven over the leopard tracks. Obviously we've got a bit more of an excuse than the other guides here who all have trackers on the hood of their vehicles. We lack that, which makes our lives a little bit more tricky. But at least we've got an excuse, I guess. go to Joe in Arizona, who asks a fairly frequently asked question, but a good question nonetheless. And Joe in Arizona is wondering if a snake has ever fallen into my vehicle. And no, not mine, but colleagues of mine, whilst off-roading, have been in the unfortunate situation to bump a tree when a snake then falls out of into the vehicle. You typically will only off-road for the big 5 sightings, and the rhino, buffalo, elephant, lion and leopard that make up the big 5 are all kind of potentially dangerous. So when there's a snake in the vehicle and you're off-roading for another dangerous animal, you are left in a fairly dangerous situation. So that must make for some exciting times. On top of the snake falling into the car question, Joe would like to know if a snake has ever slithered into a car. And where I used to work, there were no doors on the vehicle. Much better, actually, not to have a door on the vehicle. You can move around a lot more easily. Anyway, we're not going to go down that road now. But where I used to work, no door, and a colleague of mine had a black mamba put its head up into the footwell right next to his foot. But thankfully, that was all that happened. So that was a friend, that wasn't me personally, but a personal story, which I told quite recently, is of a Mozambican spitting cobra that I had to catch out of a guest's room, and then I put it in a pillowcase and took it out far into the bush to release it away from the humanoids. And I was silly because as I released it, very close, probably 3 or 4 meters from the vehicle, the closest and best form of kind of structure or somewhere to hide wasn't a bush nearby, it was the vehicle. So as the snake came out of the pillowcase, it went straight for the vehicle and up into the bodywork. So what I did was just sit and wait very, very patiently for quite some time until eventually we managed to let the snake slither away. Now, there's a bird's nest in the tree over here, and you're not going to be able to see clearly into it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to rig up my little camera and be able to poke it up into there, and you'll be able to see what's going on. But that's going to take a few minutes, so I'll be able to show you what I'm going to do now. Oh no. No, please man, not have forgotten my camera. I think I have. Bad news, everyone. We will not be able to fulfill that plan. That's such a pity. With the extender pole, I would have been able to get a bird's eye view into that nest and work out if it is active. I wonder if I can't climb it and have a look in there. Just to work out if there are eggs in it, because if there are, then we'll be able to come back here and keep monitoring. It's quite a thin little tambuti tree that I feel may not be able to hold my weight. But let me see if I can't scramble up there somehow. Not too sure what the bird is that will nest in here. Oh no, there's no ways I'm going to get a view in there. It's far too thick. And we'll have to just come back one day to try and work out what's going on there. Okay. Well, apologies for that. I left an important toy behind that was preventing us from doing what I was hoping to do there. Nice for you to actually listen to the open, crackly radio that we have to deal with to get an idea of what's usually going into our earpiece without you knowing, which makes our life a little bit tricky. It's a combination of having to listen to crackles that make no sense, as well as just general nonsense chatter between the guides that makes for a lot of audio pollution. But it is throughout throughout the safari industry, it doesn't matter where you go, radios tend to not work well, and radio procedure also tends to be the top of every ranger's meeting. Most places you have a kind of either twice a month you'll have a rangers meeting, or once a month you'll have a rangers meeting where problems are discussed. And at every rangers meeting I've ever been to, radio procedure has been high up on the list of problems. In New Hampshire would like to know if there's any specific indicators that spring has sprung. And I guess there are several different ones. Different people have different ones that they consider to be their summer or their spring indicator. Maybe the woodlands kingfisher is an indicator for some, but they arrive quite late into the summer. And I guess the first flowers of any plant would be my indicator of spring. There was quite a few bulbs called squills that shoots up little flowers. Those were the first flowering plants that I seem to remember this kind of spring, summer. But it will vary from year to year, and I personally don't have any very close connections. It'll be interesting to hear James's thoughts. I think James will probably be more inclined to have his spring indicator species than I will. But yeah, it'll always vary from year to year, as it's not a set thing on a set day, as you are well aware. But I don't have any specific indicators, no. I am Minor. Good morning. And no, lion or leopard will not prey on weak hyena or weak cheetah or any other predators, but all predators will kill other predators for competition. So preying on a species would be for food. Killing and murdering another species for competition would be for competition. So two different things, I think. But yes, of course, any animal that is weak will be bullied, sometimes by its own species, sometimes by others, but it certainly is survival of the fittest out here. I am Minor, and therefore if you are injured, you are more likely to be attacked by, again, either your own species or even lion or leopard, any other species that would ordinarily attack you if they got a chance, but would jump at the opportunity if you were weak. Okay, well, James is still at the hyena den, and you're about to join him there. Enjoy it.
Right, so we have moved, everybody, and that you're looking at there is, I think, the matriarch of this clan. She's lying with her 6-month-old baby just to the left-hand side. The 7 months old now, seems to be attempting some kind of suckling, which is probably a waste of time. 6 months is normally the weaning age. There'll probably be slight lactation up to a year. So maybe that's what's going on there. Certainly the youngster is going to get a headache lying at that angle. And then way up on the top of the mound, here is who we've been referring to as a pretty mum. She's sitting on top there. And the little one, her baby, has not come out yet. And you were asking whether there was perhaps a tunnel that went all the way through, where we've just seen the matriarch and her, well, who I think is the matriarch and her 6-month-old cub. That hole does appear to go all the way through to the other one, where we've just been watching the tiny, tiny baby. So that's the situation here. We've got 3 generations of cubs, 3 different mothers, which is not unusual for our hyena clan. It's pretty common, but it's very special to be able to see it, especially if the 7-week-old one develops enough confidence to come back out. Very strange that she won't come out now. We've certainly had her playing around here, exactly where we're sitting, in and out of that hole with that 6-month-old cub, very happily coming all the way down the mound, and now just a bit nervous for some strange reason. Now, we've been speaking a lot about what's going on here social-wise, and we've spoken a lot about the hyena hierarchy, the sort of matrilineal line with the females dominating. And Tana in Los Angeles, you want to know if it's perhaps, or how common it is, that higher-ranking females will kill the cubs of lower-ranking ones. In hyenas, not common, Tana. They're very tolerant of each other because they have that very strict hierarchy. I wouldn't say it's impossible. I wouldn't say that it doesn't happen, but it's certainly not nearly as common as it is, say, in wild dogs or in mongoose or in other animals like that, probably also in wolf packs, where if a beta female or a lower-ranking female has cubs or pups, they will be killed by the alpha pair or by the alpha female. That does not happen in hyenas. All females are allowed to breed. They will definitely, the lower ranking you are, the smaller the chances that your cub will survive, but that's probably got quite a lot more to do with the amount of food that you're able to monopolize rather than to do with your cubs being killed by higher ranking females, although it's not impossible. That buzzing noise you can hear is a spider hunting a wasp. You see the spider hunting wasp there, Tibbs? So I'm just going to try and get the spider hunting wasp here. Tibbs, there he is. Look at that. Beautiful iridescent blue spider hunting wasp. And they'll be looking for something like a baboon spider to go and lay their eggs in. What they do is they paralyze that spider, so it's still alive, paralyze it with a sting, lay the eggs inside the spider, and eventually those eggs will hatch within the spider and eat it basically from the inside out as it lies there paralyzed. It's very unpleasant. Good job, Tibbs. Doesn't appear to be a particularly active spider hunting wasp, that one. You can see this is a perfect home for hyenas. It's unsurprising that they spend so much time here. Lots of shade, lots of space. Devon, Kentucky, I don't think that your fear is necessarily one we need to worry about too much at the moment. You say is it possible that the middle cub, we'll call her the middle cub, could die if she doesn't come out and feed? Yeah, she could, but I don't think it's going to get to that stage. I think she will eventually become brave enough and she will come out. I would just like to be here when that does happen. I'm just surprised that she hasn't come out. Something's happened to make her nervous. It's either to do with the hyena fight. Maybe something's happened around the den. It's possible that a game drive came in, maybe got a bit close and gave her a bit of a fright. I don't think that's the case. I don't see any vehicle tracks, any closer than normal to the den. So I think it's probably got something to do with that big fight that went on here a few days ago. Right, let's go and have one last look at the little cub. Now, while I'm driving around to the other side, Monkey Man on YouTube, very nice name. I'm assuming your mother didn't give you that name. Monkey Man, you want to know at what stage a little hyena will learn to start hunting? How does it learn? Monkey Man, they will start eating meat from very young, apparently from about 2 weeks. If meat is brought to the den, they will start to sample it. And they learn to hunt by accompanying the clan. And they do that probably from about 8 months, apparently. They'll start to forage a little bit with the clan, and they'll hang back for a while and just basically learn from example. Remember, the hyenas in this area, while they do hunt, it's much more common for them to scavenge out here than it is for them to hunt. That's not the case in some parts of Africa. Certainly in East Africa, it's exactly the opposite. They do more hunting than they do scavenging. So it's just basically by example. They start to accompany the clan on their foraging expeditions from about 8 months old, and they just learn from there. Ever managed to get a vehicle in here, given the mess the elephants have made around here. Pushed over hundreds of trees. There we go. The little one is still out. Just sit here a little bit longer and see if anything doesn't develop before we move on. There is Manky Mum and her youngster. Youngster still suckling frantically. Very sweet. So as we see that little cub sticking its nose into and around that piece of grass, Jenny M., you say you saw her scent marking earlier. She did. It's exactly what she did. She rubbed her anal gland over the area where that grass is. And you want to know that put her cub at ease? Yes, I think it might. Now, this is interesting. You see, I think if that was a lower-ranking female, the one on the ground, if Manky was lower-ranking, I think she would move at this stage. And I think what Pretty Mum is doing is basically trying to couch favours. She's trying to kind of... I've lost the word now that I'm looking for. She's basically trying to couch favour with Manky Mum and ask her to... She wouldn't mind kindly getting her fat backside out of the way so that her youngster can come out. You can see not reacting at all. Totally disdainful. Now you see, I think a lower-ranking female would have reacted to that attempt at greeting. Vicky, I agree with you completely. It's very, very confusing. Hyenas should ideally stay at the same den all the time, just to make it easier for us to understand what is going on here. You know, I'm sorely tempted to get out of the car and go up to the manky one and say, get out of the way, which she would, of course, if we got out of the car, but everything else would run away as well. Gretchen, you say we need a hyena whisperer. Well, maybe that would be a good idea, Gretchen. I'm not sure that hyena whispering is necessarily what we need out here. Just while we're looking at that manky-looking thing, Tibbs, is that just, or we're in full zoom? Just if you can get in on her neck a little bit there, you can see a pretty nasty injury. And if you look closely to her face, she's got those sorts of cuts and bites all around there. And I suspect she was probably part of the boxing match that took place a few days ago. Well, this is interesting. Tibbs, there's a grey hornbill on the top of the tree there. Oh, it's flown off. It's carrying some food, though. It may well be going to a nest not too far from here. There were, of course, 2 nests here. I haven't seen the oxpecker nest being used of late, and there were 2 weaver's nests also that have been abandoned. Shame. I think they were built by the same male. And I think his little efforts at weaving these beautiful, intricate nests were rejected by females, possibly because of the position that he chose to build them in. As we all know, position, position, position. Lots and lots of research being done and has been done on hyenas of late, and I mean in the past. And Miss Jin in Dallas, you want to know if I know of any current studies. I don't know of any particular current studies in this area going on. I have no doubt that there are any number of masters and PhD students looking into various aspects of hyena ecology around the world. And certainly we've got a few interesting new papers. But, you know, a lot of the information about hyenas that we expound daily is pretty old. And, I mean, we managed to get some interesting papers from Tara Peary, who was a presenter here for a while. She's off in the UK doing some academic work there. She sent us through some fascinating information, not much of it, you know, less than 5 or 6 years old. So there is a huge body of information being produced about hyenas that we're not necessarily always privy to in the guiding world. And I know that they've been studied, Miss Jin, since about 1877. That's when the first article was published that rubbished the notion that hyenas were hermaphrodites. So lots and lots of academic work done on hyenas. Look at this little cub. All right, we're going to sit here for a bit longer. While we're doing that, waiting patiently for the cub to come across, Scott has got a very thirsty, very large animal to show you.
Well, it certainly isn't a wild dog, but
this is what Jesus might have looked like, according to science.
And he's enjoying quenching his thirst here at the Arathusa waterhole. Just thought we'd pop in here in case the wild dog didn't have the same intentions. We had some more tracks of them not too far from here. But as I said earlier, they cover huge, huge distances every day as they hunt. And they could be nearby, but for now, we can just enjoy the views of this old boy. Imagine having to suck the drink you were planning on having into your nostrils and then blowing it into your mouth. That is exactly what he's doing. Quite a bizarre concept and evolutionary adaptation these elephants have. What I think we should do is maybe let's drive around and get a bird's eye view of him, unless he makes his way up onto the dam wall. There's a road that moves, that goes up there, and oh, he's going up right now, which I'm actually going to stop and ask BM to show you. Oh, is he going to actually dig for minerals? I think he might be doing a bit of mining. Watch closely here. He's still pouring water into his mouth. And what he's probably going to do as well is maybe even blow some of that liquid out of his nose onto the ground there, and that will soften it and make it a bit easier for him to dig up. Elephants are known to eat on certain soils. Let's watch as he mountaineers up here. Or is he actually just looking for some fresh green grassy shoots? I think that's what he's doing. There we go. Dusting the bits of dirt off before he put it into his mouth. Very civilized. Look at that tail of his being held out sideways like that. That's quite interesting. And that might mean that we need to give him a little bit of a wider berth. I'm not too sure why he would have had his tail kinked up like that. We're very far away from him. But there could be something else that was bothering him. It's a very good indicator. As soon as that tail erects itself... Oh, here he goes. This is awesome. As soon as his tail erects, that's usually a sign that they are getting a bit worked up. But maybe it's simply because of the funny balancing act that he's having to perform on this quite precarious slope. I'm going to creep forward a little bit to give you a better idea of exactly how this slope, how much of an incline it is, because it's a little bit deceptive from here. So let's try and get in line with it. And we're probably going to get a better view from here, giving an idea of just how steep this bank is. You'll also get an idea, oh, there he goes, of what the accommodation is like here at Arathusa Lodge. Yeah, his tail was just bending up like that because he was battling to climb up the hill. Let's get a bit closer now that he's behind the bush. Isn't it interesting, the hyena dynamics here at Djuma at the moment? And very happy that you and James have been working out what's going on there. This elephant's definitely got a bit of a strange behavior this morning. Look at him. That tail now has got nothing to do with climbing up the hill and is showing us that he is in a bit of a mood. He's not in a sexually heightened stage called must. I can tell that because there's no liquid dripping from his penis, as well as the fact that his temporal glands aren't leaking. But he may just be in a bit of a funny mood, hungover, didn't sleep well, who knows. Hungover is sadly not a reality for elephants. They don't have any liquor stores out here, and the marula fruit myth that if they feed on enough fermented marula fruits they will get drunk, that is sadly a fable. And in order for fermentation to take place, you need yeast and generally a bit of a brewing process, but that doesn't happen naturally. Generally what happens is that fruit will simply rot. Wow. Remarkable how well they can disappear. And I'm going to ask them just to zoom out quickly. Hard to imagine that there's an elephant in there. And having just seen it a few seconds ago, it's wonderful to see how quickly such a large beast, probably 5 tons of animal, has disappeared. And it gives you a good idea of how cautious you do need to be whilst on a walking safari. Things can go wrong very quickly, or you can bump into something very quickly. The bird we can hear calling is a very pretty bird called the grey-headed bushshrike. And I'm going to find that in the book for you. But in the meantime, continue to listen to the beautiful sounds around us. similar to Smart Redhead, and you would like to know how many liters will an elephant be able to hold in that trunk of theirs. And I would guess between 15 and 20 liters. It will depend on the individual, but I'd be interested to know if any of you know any other more calculated or guaranteed facts. I'm basing my information on the fact that once I was at an elephant rehabilitation center where they look after elephants that have come from hard areas or hardship areas, and there they had a bucket of water, a 20-liter bucket that was sucked up into the trunk of an elephant in about 2 seconds and then blown into its mouth. So they can drink 20 liters just about that quickly, 2 seconds. But I would like to know if there are any more confirmed statistics as to exactly how much can fit into an elephant's trunk. I'm not too sure on the exact figures. Here's the grey-headed bushshrike that we could check calling. Quite similar looking to its cousin, the orange-breasted bushshrike, just above it in the book, but a lot bigger, more bulbous beak, more robust beak rather, but both very pretty birds. Quite secretive though, the bushshrikes. And Mike in Florida, apologies for not getting you your extra bird yet. We are trying. Number 200 Mike is looking for. Do you have the little swift on your list? I'm sure you do. But if you don't, that is what is flying in front of us. I'm just confirming. They're tricky, the swifts and the swallows. Having any luck there, VM? I think VM's doing a great job at considering the speed they're moving at. You may have possibly noticed a very small white rump. I'm not sure if you're getting a glimpse of that. That's a key diagnostic feature. And sadly, it's... Oh, you may have got a glimpse of it there. I don't know if it's... Very little brief glimpse there. So I'm going to go back on the little swift because I just realized that they actually don't occur here. And probably go at the common house martin, which does look similar to it, and it does have this little white rump. So that would be the one present here from late September to April. So they are a migrant all the way from the northern hemisphere and a Palearctic migrant, so probably from the Mediterranean. I hope that one may be able to help you. I just want to double check though, yeah? Was I wrong about that little swift? We can hear calling now is the orange-breasted bushshrike, the cousin of the grey-headed bushshrike we were just talking about. Let's see if we can find it. We are getting closer to it. It's just up to the right here somewhere. Sadly, it's in and around the lodge environs here, somewhere down that pathway that the guests will walk down to get to their rooms. No luck. This is going to be a view that a lot of you have never seen before, and I've never been through here with you. And this is the Arethusa Lodge. Little parking lot on the right, the main lodge entrance off to our left. We're not going to poke the camera in there. This is where the guests come in, get dropped off, and enter the lodge just to the left. You'll have to come in and take a closer look. What I haven't realized is where I'm going now, but thankfully this door is opening for me and VM. I'm just going to probably going to actually send you back to James now because we've gotten to an area where we shouldn't be. So, back to James, and we will let you know as soon as we're out of this mess we've got ourselves into. Goodbye.
Right, that's quite interesting. I'm not sure what happened there. We're still here with the hyenas. Nothing has happened since you were last here. In fact, I nodded off once because the hyenas all nodded off, and so I thought I'd join them briefly. There they are. Still, the other one has not come out of the den. I was sorely tempted to fling something at the manky mother to make her move away so that the other one could come out. But what I'm going to suggest we do is sit here for another 5 minutes or so and then leave. And just, it might be the fact that we're here, that the other little one doesn't want to come out. I really don't think that is the case. But in case it is, I'm going to leave here in about 5 minutes. So if you've got any more questions about these magnificent beasts that we call the hyenas, please send them through. I would love to answer your questions and indeed hear your theories around what's going on here. I think it's so interesting to have a sort of collective think tank about what's happening here. Oh, let's see, maybe now. Get out of the way, you ugly lump. Let's hold thumbs, everyone. Tina Berry and James Chapman, you're both watching on YouTube and you both want to know if the mother lying in front of the hole there is sick. No, she's just deeply unattractive. She's been in many fights. She's lost all the hair on her face. She's got cuts all over her neck and face. She's got her teeth are blunt. Her lips are thin and kind of hardly cover her gums. She's just not a good-looking one. But otherwise, I think she's in pretty good health. If she was sick, she wouldn't be covered in all that sort of fine muscle. You can see she's not thin at all. Her hips are not sticking out. She's very healthy. She's just had youngsters. So, no, I don't think she's sick at all. I think she's just not what we'd describe as a... She's not about to walk the catwalks of Milan anytime soon. Indeed, ever. Whereas her counterpart lying on top of the den is very beautiful. And Lorraine K, yes, good point there. Just where the baby is chewing, you can see that she's missing a little piece of her ear there. And Lorraine, that could be a decent way to identify her, but for the fact you can see very clearly right now how the shape of that ear is going to change. So unlike with certainly with the rhino, what they do is they notch the bottom of the ears, and that gives you a very good idea, if they want to identify them. Certainly during the dehorning process, if they are dehorning rhino, they'll dart them, and then they take a nick out of the ears, and they so each rhino's got a specific ear nick pattern, so we can identify them. With the hyenas, because they get chewed up, well, like they're being chewed now, you know that the one during the fight lost her ear completely. The ears are not a great way of identifying individual hyenas because they change so much. Same with elephants. So I think the best way to identify them is just to spend time with them, take some screenshots, just like so many of you do with the leopards. We've got some wonderful shots of different spot patterns that we wouldn't normally use for identification, but which we can use for identification now because of the screenshots you've taken. So let's take some screenshots of these hyenas and see if there are any unique identifying marks. I think for this manky one, it's just the fact that she's the ugliest hyena in the Sabi Sands is going to be the way that we identify her. And quite apart from that, you know, she's got thin lips, she's got no hair on her face, lots of scars. Much more difficult actually to identify the other mother, who, you know, is just a kind of perfectly formed hyena. She's very beautiful. It's going to be difficult to identify her from other hyenas in good condition. I think you'll find that the spots are unique and they probably don't change, but to try and recognize them is not easy. So that's the only way we can do that is with photographs. It's very sweet watching that little one there. Look at that. Now, Nature Lover, you're also watching on YouTube, and an interesting question from you about why the mother doesn't go into the den to fetch her cub. Two reasons. Well, one reason, but an interesting story behind it. Nature Lover, the den is simply too small for the mother to get inside there. As soon as hyenas are born, they, apart from using their claws and teeth to kill siblings, what they do is they dig a shelf at the back of the den for themselves to lie on. So they dig away into the den to a place where no one can get at them. So it means that if a leopard comes along or a lion comes along, the adults can just run away and the babies can go inside onto their little shelf and nothing will be able to get at them, except maybe something like a python. I suppose a mamba might try it, but it's highly unlikely. So there's no way that the mother can get herself far enough into the den to retrieve the cub. She could, I suppose, stand at the den and call, and eventually if the little one stuck its head out, she could grab it behind the neck, which is how they carry their cubs. But I don't think she's that desperate yet to do that. All right, everyone, I think that we are going to leave these hyenas. I'd like to spend a bit more time with them. I'm just a little bit worried that we're perhaps affecting whether the little one comes out or not. Ooh, as I say that, the little one starts to call from the inside. She's calling now. You won't be able to hear her above the wind. But eventually this manky mum's going to have to go off and try and find something to eat, at which point I think the other one will come out. All right. What a very marvellous time we've had here. All right, say goodbye to the hyenas, everyone. We're going to go back across to Scott while I extricate myself from this position, and we'll pop back here probably this afternoon to see what's happening.
Hello, and welcome back on board the Jigger. This vehicle is called Jigger. The vehicle you've been on with James is called Wendy, and this is Roy from Arethusa. Hello, Roy. How are you doing, my friend?
How are you, man?
Good. Hello, everybody. Nothing. Birds and trees.
Okay.
Yeah, I've heard, but we were in the wrong place at the wrong time, my friend. Thanks, Roy.
Thank you.
Cheers, everybody.
Bye.
Wonderful guy, Roy. He's just returning from Arethusa, and what's interesting is that there are the different traverse areas, and they'll drive quite a long distance to the east in order to get to another area that they can drive around. So they'll kind of be restricted to a main road that they can traverse down until they get to another patch of land where they go. So not too sure what was happening across there. He's a great guy, Roy. And there's also another person returning back from somewhere. I'm not too sure who this is now. This looks like possibly one of the Elephant Plains guys. Oh no, it's not, it's Ryan, also from Arethusa. He's bound to try and make a funny joke about me, but we'll try and see if we can get him first.
Howdy.
Hello, Ryan.
Hey, brother.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
How are you doing? Yeah, good, thanks.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank thank you for allowing me to drive around your wonderful property this morning, but I must say there was no animals that I found.
Been there last night.
It's been a bit quiet on the Sunday here. That's why we all went far east today.
I see. Did you have some luck?
Yeah, we did. We won my fuzzy anyway.
Good.
Far up Gary Lane.
Very good. Well, I'm happy for you. I'm glad you had a good morning, and just feeling sorry for you with your guide though, but if you ask when you get back, you'll probably be able to trade them in for another one.
No, don't worry. I'm keeping them short and I'm going home today.
Oh, are you? Yeah. Awesome, dude. Have a good leave.
Lekker, buddy.
We'll see you next year.
No, you'll see me on the 31st.
Okay, there we go.
We'll break in the new year with a bang.
Okay.
Scotty was South Africa's first male ballerina.
Thank you, Ryan. Cheers, everyone. I knew it was coming, and he's such an awesome guy, Ryan. Hello, mzfilm.tv, who is watching on YouTube, and you're not sure whether this is live or not. Now you probably know that it is live because we are answering a question that you may have sent through just a few moments ago. And it'll be wonderful if you let us know where you're watching, how you found out about us, but this is certainly live, it's interactive. Sadly though, we've only got 10 more minutes of action for the sunrise safari. We are in South Africa and it's 10 to 8 in the morning. Our morning broadcast is from 5 until 8, and our afternoon broadcast is from 4 p.m. until 7 p.m. So it'll be wonderful if you joined us on the sunset safari this evening. I'm not sure what time zone you're in, it may not work out for you, but twice a day we take live game drives, and you're more than welcome to join us and bring some friends along for the adventure. So a really awesome email that was sent through the other day by one of our viewers who is a chef, I think in New York, and every night after work his colleagues or her colleagues would have a few drinks, and they would always rush off, or he or she would always rush off straight after work, and eventually the colleagues managed to convince this person who kept sneaking off to watch SafariLIVE, what's going on, you know, where are you going? And he or she told them, I'm watching these live safaris, and invited a few people around to watch. Now there's 25 or 30 youngsters, I think they're in their mid-20s, that every weekend or every second weekend get together and watch these live safaris together. Please send through more stories like that if you are a part of them, because it really does make us feel warm and fuzzy inside. I'm going to do a celebratory roller coaster ride here now for our new viewer, mz.tv. These cars are so much fun. And MZ, if you join in enough of these safaris, we'll take you on a little off-road adventure following lion and leopard through the bush. This morning's been a little bit quiet. We don't like to say that, but sometimes you just have to accept the realities. Some drives are more action-packed than others. It's impossible to, not impossible, but it's very tricky to track down the animals, and there's no ways to control where they move through this massive, massive national park, 3 million hectares, bigger than some countries. Michelle Shields, you are correct. I think Ryan won that battle. And his chirps were far better than mine. Barbara has now asked something very interesting, and she would like to know, when will you see me dancing? Well, you'd probably have to be in a fortunate situation to be at a party that I am at, and it'll probably be at the latter half of the party that I'd be more inclined to dance. I'm not much of a dancer. So, sorry, Barbs. Brent and James are going to be better options for that, and probably far more enjoyable to watch dancing than me. I feel I'm quite stiff, Barbara, as if my joints are not lubricated, and therefore I dance kind of like a robot. It's not good. That plus the lack of rhythm makes for rather painful experience for all involved. The chances of seeing me in a tutu, however, are probably better. I wouldn't mind, you know, I could deal with putting on a tutu. I could do a ballerina drive, but to perform as a ballerina would be more tricky. But to dress up as one, that's something I'd be more inclined to do. Feel free to post over a tutu and the relevant extra accessories to us here, and I will do a ballerina drive happily. Wouldn't that be funny? Oh, yay! We found some mammals. And I think there's a new addition. There is. Then the furthest little calf on the right seems to be a little bit shaky. And oh no, there might be more than one new addition. The last time we checked, this herd of wildebeest had 3 calves. Sadly, 3 of the initial 6 were eaten by lions all in one night. So basically the last head count we had was 3, but now I've counted, I think, 5 or 6 already.
6.
Sorry, Vim?
I think I'm counting 6.
Okay, Vim thinks he's counting 6, so... Oh, geez, James counted 8 yesterday, so I'm a little bit behind on the wildebeest news. The wildebeest grapevine. So we need to get more than 8 if there is to be a new addition. But it is very thick, and let's see if we can't get you one last little glimpse of one of these cute calves following its mother off into the thickets. So they're going to be trying to avoid us and any other danger in these windy conditions. So I don't think we're going to be able to get a head count just now. And we're going to send you across to James, who's found you a nest. Good luck.
Now, that might just look like a tree to you, but there's actually a nest in there of a long-tailed or magpie shrike. So just to the right of the picture there, Ted, the views come a little bit to the right. The whole flock is in that tree. There's the nest, and there are 2 little fledglings. They've just got out of the nest, and I've seen them. They're begging for food in the middle of this bush. They're just starting to get their little tails, and you can hear them all calling. Now, I was desperately proud of myself for finding this, because Scott, of course, has found 47 nests this season, and this is the first one I've found. No, second one, sorry. Second one. Scott 47, James 2. I was trying to get hold of him on the radio to boast to him, but unfortunately I couldn't get hold of him. So I'm just going to reverse a little bit back, and we'll see if we can't actually get a view of the fledglings. In fact, I'll go a bit forward. So the adults are coming in and feeding them. I suppose it's quite possible that Scott has already found this nest before, and I just think I'm being very clever. So we're just going to go around and see if we can't get a view of the fledglings, and they're quite sweet. They've just come out of the nest. They've got tiny little tails about that long, and the adults are about that long. There we go. See, as soon as they get spotted, they disappear inside. You can just see them on the edge of the tree there. Might get a view of them there. They've disappeared back inside. They were just in there. There you can see one moving. There we go. Yeah, I'm afraid they're not being particularly confiding, but I just wanted to prove to you that there were some little magpie shrikes in there. And that tree's a brilliant tree. It's a buffalo thorn tree, and the buffalo thorn, of course, is very, very thorny. There we can see the little ones. And so it's a really good tree. If you're trying to avoid predators getting into your nest, that's where you want to be, that there. little magpie shrike. Very sweet. All right, everyone. Well, that's all we're going to give you this morning, I'm afraid. Thank you very much for your interesting questions and comments, especially around the hyena den. Some great chat around that. Thank you, Tebs, for your efforts today. Big thanks to the final control of Nikki and Louise, and of course to Scott, and I think he's with VM this morning. Big thanks to them. We'll see you this afternoon. I'm going to hand you over to Scott for the last 2 minutes. Thanks again, and we'll see you later today. Bye.
Very happy to hear that another nest has been found here on Djuma. And again, well done to James. The wonderful thing about being on safari or coming on safari at least many different times, or in this situation with different guides, is that you'll find nobody is the same, which is no major bulletin or update, but you do get obviously different things that different people like and different skills that people have. And I guess one thing I like doing is looking for birds' nests, so that's what I do more often than other things. And James and Brent and Jamie and Steph all have their own little traits, and that's what makes for, I think, quite a well-rounded team at the moment. We are looking for another guide, so that is exciting news. Soon you'll be meeting another safari guide and get to see another view or aspect as to how to go on safari, so that's exciting. Who knows when we will find that person, but we are on the lookout. So if you fancy coming and working here as a guide, send through your CVs. Kyle, thanks very much for that update. And even though we missed out on the action on the buffalo just briefly, they've just arrived at the Arathusa Waterhole, you will be able to watch on the Arathusa Waterhole camera. There is a live camera over there, so log on to that and watch as the herd of buffalo approaches there. And thanks for that update, Kyle. Thank you very much to everyone this morning, not only Kyle, but all of the people who have contributed with questions, comments, opinions. And well done to VM on camera, and to Louise and Nikki in the final control room. It's been a very pleasant morning out on safari with you, and I'm hoping that the Sunset Safari will provide you with a little bit more action, but we'll have to wait and see. For now, goodbye, and see you next time. Well, we couldn't resist going live again. We've stumbled across what seemed to be possibly another herd of wildebeest. It seems like a smaller herd, and this female must have just given birth to this youngster. It's trying to work out where to drink and what to do. This is all entirely on instinct. Isn't it fascinating that it's still wet? It's just popped out. You can see that it is very, very shaky on its legs, but still understands that it needs to drink milk from behind those back legs. And it's not sure exactly how to do it. And we are right on the quarantine clearings where we have seen so many wildebeest birds, 5 last year. Jamie got 1 here so far this year. We just missed this one this morning, sadly. And this is probably the fastest that wildebeest has ever moved in its life. What we've just seen now, quite nice comparison in the background between a slightly older calf whose fur has dried. This is awesome. And considering it takes most human babies a year to learn how to stumble about, I think we need to commend this young wildebeest on its shaky first steps only minutes after being born. Well, I hope there are some of you who are still watching or have got the broadcast that, or the message that we have continued this morning's show. There we go, that's trying to nurse again. It seems to, I think it's, look at all the embryonic sac still draped over the back of that young calf. That's fascinating. I didn't notice that until now. Some of you guys probably did. Fascinating.
Freezing in his wound.
And yeah, VM's just brought up a very good point. There's a cold breeze blowing, and because it's wet, it must be quite cold, and that's probably why it is shivering. Come on, Mom. Now, what the mother could well do is eat that embryonic fluid and sac that's draped over the back of that little calf. And I'll do that to try and regain his... Oh! Look at this. I'll try and do that to, as I was saying, regain as much minerals and nutrients as possible. But Mom seems in good shape, which is wonderful, as do all the other mothers with their slightly older calves in this herd. And I think we're going to leave them in peace now. I don't want to put any extra James Chapman, who logged on for the first time today and got that little extra bit at the end there. James, it's a great pleasure to have you on the SafariLIVE family. Happy to hear that you've already met some great people on the various platforms, and very happy to have shared that really cool sighting of the newborn wildebeest with you. There'll be lots of wonderful moments that we share in the future, James, and welcome on board. Thanks for your comments, and to everyone else who's watching, thank you for tuning back in. We are going to say goodbye for now and see you on the Sunset Safari.